All right, everybody, welcome. We are doing a IDP and offense redraft mock today as we start our collection of redraft ADP for the new season for the 2022. So right now we are showing in Sleeper. We got 12 guys together. We here are all in this draft, and we are going to talk through our picks, talk through what's going on in this draft, and create a little content around doing a mock draft in a redraft format. So Mace, Cali King 49er 17, I'm going to kick it over to you to just give the settings that we're using and how we're going to draft.
Yeah, so first off, we're going on the Sleeper platform on a 30-second timer, 12 teams, 16 rounds to include IDP. Snake, so we're going around in a serpentine format. There is no third round reversal for this. We're going by IDP settings, so the ADP that's used on here is for Superflex, even though this is not a Superflex. This is only one quarterback. Like I said before, 12 teams, all players, rookies, and veterans, 30 seconds to pick. We got one quarterback, two running back spots, two wide receiver spots, one tight end, one offensive flex, two defensive linemen, two linebackers, two defensive backs, two IDP flex, and one bench just for giggles.
Nice. There we go. So why don't you kick off the draft? I'll make the first pick, and we'll send it over and start our introductions here. Let's go first off. Richard at Engineer Change. I believe this might be the first podcast I've been on with you. So go ahead, give everyone a little introduction of who you are as I make my pick.
Yeah, I'm a bit new to the IDP guys, but hi, I'm Richard. I've been doing fantasy for a little more than half a decade now, and I think it's a lot of fun. IDP, I think, it's a new side of data that I like to explore, and I'm a data scientist by trade, so sort of who I am and what I do. You might start seeing more of me on the website soon.
Awesome. Oh, great to have you. Brandon, give yourself a little intro.
Yes, I'm Brandon Hay. You can find me on Twitter at HeyB3. As you can see on the screen, I've been playing fantasy for about 20 years, been in the industry a little over a year. This is my second live mock draft of the day. So, that's a record for me, too, in one day. So I'm excited for this. And I picked pick 8 because in one quarterback, I like to be in the middle near the back so you don't have to wait so long for your second pick.
Nice. That's awesome explanation of picking at the 8th spot. To be honest, that 1.6 to 1.8, even into the 1.9, but maybe not so much. I don't really like that area. It's usually I don't get the best teams out of it, but so that's why I just dropped dropped the ball on the table and went 101. But Mace, give yourself a little intro here.
Yeah, I am Mace. You can find me on Twitter at CaliKing49er17. I do write IDP for IDP guys. That's all the content I really do, aside from hopefully some more mocks and doing some video stuff on here. I picked the 12 spot because I've been preparing a lot for drafts. I've had a lot of 11 and 12 spots in Scott Fish Bowl, Warrior Bowl, a lot of the charity leagues going on. So I kind of already have it prepped, and it was just kind of the first thing on my mind. So and you went with the first one. So I wanted to separate myself a little bit and see how opposite our teams would be on either side. So
nice. Yeah, absolutely. My name is Nathan. I'm at Nate Sheet, and I am the founder of IDP guys as well as a co-owner. I like to think of myself more as the guy in the chair. The other guys are the analysts. We have a data scientist here, so who else could speak better than me on what's going on here? But so I picked the 101 just because I don't know, it was there, and I do so many mocks that I usually can pick from anywhere. It's not too terrible, but like I said, the 1.6 to 1.9 is kind of like a dead zone for me. I don't like those decisions too often, but Yeah. So I went with Jonathan Taylor just because, well, at the 101, you want to not mess it up. You want to take the guy, and in that first 3 rounds, things kind of usually fall where they should. Um, so taking what could be the best running back. I've heard some talk that Swift might take that one spot, or if McCaffrey can stay healthy, he could possibly return there. But I feel like Taylor is more of the not the sure thing, but the more likely thing. What about you guys? What do you think?
Yeah, I like Taylor as far as like the consensus one. I guess he feels like the best security blanket up there. Out of all the guys at that elite level that I at least look at, I feel the most comfortable on him finishing in the top 5 this year, barring injury. They've got the workload; they're going to give it to him. Matt Ryan is a great passer, but I don't think that he's going to put up the numbers that he did like 3, 4, 5 years ago. Although I do think that they're going to be good, but I know even if he does have that slight decline, I do feel like that's probably what I would have to do in a single quarterback format. Derrick Henry going second. I do kind of understand it, but it's also kind of spicy with the circumstances currently for him. And I guess with that offense, it could kind of pan out because he was catching a lot of balls and stuff last year too. Still up in the stats weeks after he got injured. So,
yeah. So let's start with Richard. You picked. Let's see, where are you at? You're right there on the 5 spot. You got Justin Jefferson and Jamal Williams, correct? Or
Vontae.
no, that's Vontae Williams.
Javonte
That's it.
Williams. Yeah.
So go through a little bit of why you picked those guys.
Yeah, I mean Justin Jefferson. It's going to be an amazing year for him, and Kirk Cousins would be the hope, which is why I'm happy that he dropped to pick 5 here. And I think we saw some start to Javonte Williams last year, and I have a lot of hope for him. And working with Russ and a new Denver, a little surprised Javonte dropped to me. Actually, I didn't expect him in the second round.
Yeah,
This fall second round.
Yeah, with Aaron Jones going before him, Nick Chubb, I see that. Saquon Barkley's going high, like a little higher in this than I've seen, but I also understand that as well. Saquon's could come out beast mode this year. Oh, IDP going in the 3rd round here.
Oh wow!
I took Joe Mixon in the 1st round. Sorry, real quick, just because I like his upside. I feel like that passing offense could maybe take a step back just to get more carries out to Mixon. Mixon, I think, averaged in the mid 4.4, 4.3 average per carry last year. I expect that to go up a little bit, and he gets a boatload of opportunities as well.
Got it. So so we got TJ Watt there at right in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
I mean, that's early, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, a little spicy. I mean, I understand the upside, but I mean, he's going to have to perform at what he did last year or better to get, I think, the value back. I mean, we see these tight ends that are still in the top 3 going off, and Andrews and Pitts afterwards. Deebo Samuel, I don't know if he'll be used the same way that he was, but he's a good wide receiver. T. Higgins as well. So I don't know. I'm curious to see when the next one's going to go off the board.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a little while, especially with the amount of IDP people in this. We've got quite a few people from our staff, as well as some people from the Twitter. So, what about these tight ends? What do you think of that? Kelsey in the 2nd, and then Andrews and Pitts back to back.
I thought about taking a tight end where I took Devontae at 2.5. So I don't think it's crazy. I know this might be a spicy take, but I think Andrews is actually going to be the tight end 1 instead of Kelsey this coming year.
Okay, I can see it. Kelsey is getting older. Andrews is still fairly young, and a good situation there. What do you think, Richard? Looked like you were about to say something.
I can definitely see that. I feel like Andrews is going to get a ton of volume with no one really else to throw it to. It's just is Andrews staying healthy is always the question of the day.
Yeah, that is true. I do know that Andrews was a solid reason for the Scott Fishbowl winner last year. And there was we were talking about this at the Boston Live draft. Andrews went down and had to be taken away by ambulance around the draft of the Scott Fishbowl, like this time last year. But he was able to, I believe they said it had something to do with what is that? Low blood sugar or something along those lines.
Oh, I remember that now. Yeah, that was crazy when it came out.
Right. And so, he came back and he was able to play really awesome last year. And so there might be maybe it's misconceptions. I don't know. On his, injury history because of that. But what happened was it caused his ADP or his pick. The Scott Fishbowl winner got him in like the 8th round because everyone was afraid of him. Yeah.
It is a high stakes draft, though. Even being there when I was at the San Francisco one, it was super. There are moments, everyone's laughing and being friendly, but someone takes a big name off the board and everyone kind of notices, and you can feel that shockwave, man. So I completely understand, when someone misses a pick or someone thinks that their draft isn't panning out the way it is, you can see that in people's drafts. So no one really wants to slip up and make that mistake, but Mark Andrews was just not that mistake. He's definitely come up.
Brandon, I'm curious on your Dobbins pick. What's your take on the news of today?
Yeah, I actually was going to take him the round before, with Tyreek, and I was like, I'll wait one more round just because. Obviously he came back today. He was a little upset, all the talk about him not being back for week 1. Even if he's not back to say week 2 or week 3. I still think, before his injury last year, I was very high on him. I think they're going to go back to being a run heavy offense. And, he was averaging, a very large, I think almost 5 or over 5 yards a carry. The only thing is, he's not going to get that crazy ceiling because the Lamar is still going to get some of those rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, you also have that upside with your first pick with Eckler too, though. So it kind of gives you a little bit more wiggle room just in case if that does happen. I feel like you'll be all right. So I like that.
Definitely. It's funny, the mock draft I did earlier, it was switched. Eckler went right before me, so I took Najee. And this time Najee went right before me, so I got Eckler. I feel better about taking Eckler. But that's funny that how it just kind of switched in the 2 mock drafts.
Yeah, nice. So, we've had a couple guys have their auto picks. Just as far as the ADP collection of this, because we will run multiple drafts, that'll average itself out. Especially when you talk about the TJ Watt, Michael Parsons stack at the 2 spot. Those kind of anomalies will kind of work themselves out. But that being said, there might be people drafting those guys higher. So keep that in mind. If you're trying to target TJ Watt, you have to spend a lot for him. And while a lot of people will wait until the 6th round, there are those people that will jump the gun early.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen it in a couple drafts myself recently. I'm especially on some guys that maybe I myself might not be taking at that spot or even 3 or 4 rounds after. But that's just fantasy football. It's like it's that trouble whenever you sit there and play and you. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I lost it for a second.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I got you right where you were saying trouble.
Okay, yeah. The board game where you sit there and you press it and it's just random. That's pretty much how every draft is, depending on what it is, the scoring, things like that. So there's a lot of variables that count as ADP.
Yeah, know your league, know your league mates, know what they're gonna get into because, you know, Brandon jumped in with Roquan Smith. What was going into your decision making, getting into the linebacker right there?
Yeah, so I kind of looked and I was thinking about tight end there, but the tight ends I wasn't comfortable picking that tight end at that spot. I would rather just wait a couple rounds and see who's there. And I already have two running backs, two wide receivers, quarterback. Since it's one quarterback, I could probably wait. And usually, when I've done the mock drafts for our dynasty ADP, usually I wait way too long on IDP, and I feel like I don't get those top tier guys. So I wanted to make sure to get that in this redraft mock.
Yeah, no, definitely. It looks like you're not alone from the standpoint of IDP guys staff. We got Dynasty Bison going Miles Garrett now. That's a pick that I like there. And I'm with you on the tight end. I felt like Waller was the last one outside of Hawkinson that I would pick at tight end that early. And I had Waller above Hawkinson. I knew Hawk wasn't coming back, that neither of them would probably come back. So let's see. So Richard, tell me a little bit about your team and kind of what you're thinking coming up.
Well, I'm about to. There goes Jordan Brooks. That was my next choice.
Oh, man.
So that's exactly
Sniping
what I
real
was
time.
thinking.
30 seconds. It's hard to kind of shift and adjust fire, you know.
It really affects things.
Ooh, I like that one though. Going Bosa,
Yeah.
that's solid.
But yeah, like a lot of the good linebackers are off the board there. I think Brooks is very impressive. I think we rank him pretty much below Roquan and Micah, and he had more tackles last year if I remember correctly. Though things might change a bit this year, is my understanding. With
There's a
the
lot. Yeah, there's a lot going down in Seattle.
you have Cody Barton there.
Mhm.
Yeah. And they get Adams back as well.
I picked Jordan Brooks last pick of my draft last year, and he really paid off for me. So I love the guy. But Nick Bosa's I think a good choice in the 6th round. I would hope. Hard to beat a good defensive end like him.
Yeah, positional scarcity as well. Sorry, Nate. Yeah, positional scarcity as well. Yeah, you the top heavy. You just kind of want to pick for a few, especially with some of those guys like T.J. Watt, Parsons going in the 5th round and earlier. The fruit at the bottom of the tree is definitely drying out. So good to jump on it while you could right there. And then I liked how Bison kind of sniped you there, Nate. You must have saw your last podcast that you appeared on. So I think you took Garrett in the 6th or the 7th at that turn right there. Or yeah.
I'll grab myself some Derwyn James though.
Okay, that's nice.
A nice DB to anchor myself with, and where do I want to go here? Let's go Devontae Smith. Get a little bit of Eagles. Yeah.
No, that's nice. Let's see. More going in the was that the 4th round? 4-2. Does his team up with Baker Mayfield scare you guys or entice you guys?
I personally like it. I like it for DJ Moore this with Baker because even all Baker's issues and everything, which I think a lot is a little overblown, but it's still the best probably the best passer that he's had. And I think he's going to do well because I just don't think Baker does well with like the alpha wide receivers that you just throw it up to. And DJ Moore is more of like a good route runner and everything like that. So at least that's my opinion.
Someone that got drafted kind of high for me in my fishbowl was Kareem Hunt's. Is there a lot of belief in Kareem Hunt's under what? Probably Jacoby Brissett?
What like when you say high, how high was that?
It was the 10th round. I mean, it's not terribly high, I guess, but there was some chat saying that, yeah, like he could be a number one, he could be a top 5 running back for you, and I don't think it was sarcasm.
I'm trying to see. Well, then I took him even higher. I took him in round 9 in Scott Fishbowl, only
Hmm.
because of the scarcity of the running back, and just because if Nick Chubb does get hurt, then obviously Hunt could be a top 5. But even not, there's a more of a 50-50 split there than people imagine. I don't necessarily agree with that split, but they just take Nick Chubb out of drives like in the third quarter just to get Hunt in there. So he's
Yeah.
not just the change of pace like receiving back. Sometimes they just put him in there to run the ball. So
And he's getting the touchdowns too.
right.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I guess the volume, it really hurts Chubb over time, and Cleveland prepares for that.
I think another
they're-
part is just there's just that kind of cliff for running backs where like once you hit it, there's really not great options. So you just want one that you think will at least get the most opportunity.
Yeah, especially when you get lower like that, because like if you look at Hunt went there the 7-6. The next one is Kenneth Walker, who's a rookie who we think will have the bigger role, but it could still be the Chris Carson show until he's injured. And is Penny still in Seattle? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
he's
Oh,
still
yeah.
there, and they've actually said they want to give him the ball like 20 times a game, which
Right.
doesn't make any sense. But they don't make a lot of sense.
The injury to Carson seems like it could be potentially like go into the start of the season or further.
Mhm.
Some sort of neck injury, right?
He's getting a second opinion on it, I believe, because they're saying it might be career ending. Don't quote me on that, but it's supposed to be pretty bad. So I don't know if it's.
There's definitely people that think he might never play football again. So he's dead. That's definitely up in the air.
Yeah, I've seen this IDP drop off.
Yeah, it's the volatility in that running back core that it's just like the only one I really see getting drafted is Walker, because logically, Penny hasn't worked out. Carson should be at the end of his career, but we all know that week 1's going to come around and Carson's going to get the workload, and he's going to come back from the dead, and everyone's going to be going to the waiver wire to pick him up. So it kind of creates this volatility at that spot, and in that round, like Kareem Hunt, at least is going to get the targets at some point. Part of the game. I like Daniil Hunter here. It's not bad. He kind of fell a little bit. Let's see what do we got for linebackers.
There are some good ones in there. I won't mention any because I'm not trying to get sniped right now. But I'm looking through now. One thing I've been doing lately is last year I was way too in the beginning, like defensive focus. I was the guy taking a defensive guy in the second round, the third round, like trying to beat my chest. Like I love IDP. Well, I also ended up loving like 8th and 7th place, man, because that's where I was landing in a lot of the situations. Just because those guys, it's so hard for those. I mean, it wasn't T.J. Watt and it wasn't Micah Parsons, so it didn't really pay off for me. So I'm really trying to take a step back and see if I can find more value later on and then really stock up on offense. So that's kind of my strategy in this draft.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's kind of the thing is if you take these guys too early, pay too much for them, you're missing out on other players. Like look at if I had taken TJ Watt instead of Bryce Hall, like that's a big difference, and having my running backs kind of like set is worth far more than having a big splash play kind of linebacker. I mean, TJ Watt is kind of a cheat code, at least the last year or so, but it's still a hefty price to pay.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of these players where their names just come with a price tag.
Yep.
Up until today, like Chase Young's been one of those guys, or even on offense, Gabe Davis. We just wrote an article about both those guys. I don't know. I have a lot of names escaping me right now. But I feel like there are a lot of names that do carry value, and it's like, or you have these guys that'll go 1 year and just go off, and then the next year they fall off. It's because the scheme will switch. You get a different defensive coordinator. There's things behind the scenes a lot of people don't notice. So that's why I like doing this ADP stuff. You can really find the trends and get in there in the hot and heavy stuff and find that value.
Yeah. Trayvon Diggs, I think, is going to be one of those guys that is a name that's not going to pan out. I like your pick right there, though. Jeremy Chin, talking about value, a guy that is dual position into DB and linebacker, but on the field is playing that box safety role and is just going to eat up the tackles. So is a great guy to solidify your defensive backs with.
Yeah, that's really what I was going for, at least what I've started to look for. Just like with tight ends, I'm going for receptions, and I'm looking for like red zone percentage or how many targets they're getting inside of the 20 or inside of the actual touchdown. For DBs, for me, it's how many box snaps, how much are you around the football? Are you in the action, or are you just out there trying to pick the ball off? Because, yeah, Diggs did have an amazing year on the outside, but he's getting a lot of turnovers too. I think at one point they were literally the NFL was selling the fact that the one Stig brother had more touchdowns than the other one. Mm-hmm. Like from defense to offense, so it was kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, you would love to see that kind of production every year, but just to see it year in and year out, it's really, really hard to do at the NFL level. So
yeah,
I mean, you'll get.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, no, you'll get guys like Aaron Rodgers who are super hard-headed, and they'll like try to make a day out of making you look like an idiot. And then you have other guys like Mitchell Trubisky who just won't even look your way. So it really depends on the week and the matchup.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw a TikTok video where someone went through all of Diggs' interceptions, and only like 2 out of the 7 were actually like where he made the play. There was like 2 against the Commanders where they just threw it to him. A couple bounced off the wide receiver's hands. I mean, he's still there, but it's not like he's making these crazy defensive plays all the time. I had some parts about being a corner or safety is just being in the right place at the right time. But, kind of like you're saying, it's hard to, replicate that year after year. And he's getting burnt a lot too. So he's not able to get those tackles. So that's definitely a concern.
So think about that. You talk about lockdown, like we talk about lockdown safeties, lockdown corners. And what that means is that usually quarterbacks don't target that side because they're so good. And the only person on the field that really can control where the ball goes is the quarterback. So, Diggs was in this special circumstance where he was getting burnt a lot. So he was giving up the plays, giving up catches. So he was becoming a target. But he was also able to convert a certain amount of those into these incredible plays. So that it was kind of like this balance where the quarterbacks were still thrown his way and he was making the plays. So it just seemed like just amazing production. Well, if he gets any better at, keeping the plays from happening, the tackling the guy or stopping, getting more pass breakups, that's going to cause quarterbacks to shift away from him. And then he's just not going to have opportunities at all. And so that's going to be a major drop in production and value.
Definitely. And I think, I know most times we try to stay away from corners unless there is, a set lineup where you have to play cornerbacks. And I always think that you want cornerbacks that give up catches and then make the tackles. Like you're saying, if like I remember when I first started playing IDP, I was like, Jalen Ramsey's so good, so let me pick him. Well, he doesn't get the ball thrown to him very much, so you don't get very many points. You want a lot of times rookies or even bad corners, they're going to get you fantasy points because they're going to, get 8-9 tackles because they're always going to throw against them and, because they just can't stop the wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to balance that out in your settings, if you up the pass breakups, then you start giving points to the good corners and making those guys a little bit more relevant. But still, if they're not getting targeted, you're still not gonna be able to make up those points. Richard, I want to hear a little bit more from you. Talk about I see you got St. Brown and then you went Holcomb and then Trey Lance. Tell me about the three group in
I'm
your team.
I'm a huge Trey Lance fan. I hate that he had to be my QB1. I was holding out for Hurts, but you beat me to that one, Nathan. I I think there's no way that Jimmy G is going to play there this year. I think they said that he was in training camp practicing just a bit ago.
Mhm.
So I'm very pumped and excited for him. Uh Holcomb, I needed a linebacker, and I started to lose a lot of the good ones, as I mentioned. So it was a little bit of a quick move for me. And then now McKinney, a very reliable DB.
Yeah. Well, that's solid. Yeah, when I was looking at my picks there, I knew I needed to get a quarterback soon, and Hertz was the last one that I had any attraction to, so I grabbed him.
It's a tier shift after Hurts. I really think it is because the next guy was Russ on the board, and
Yeah,
I do not trust Russ in Denver. I'm sorry.
not on board with letting Russ cook.
But
The
so you trust Trey Lance more than Russ?
the second half of the year, I just think there's um a higher
I mean,
floor.
it's a fair opinion. I just
'Cause
was,
he
I
can
think it's
run.
interesting. Yeah.
The second half of last year, Russ did not look good at all.
Well,
I mean,
I mean,
there's some people that say that same thing, that he's kind of, over that hill, and that, I want to see it in a new, team, if he can kind of get reinvigorated, and everything.
I think they're going to go through those running backs first off, and I think Trey Lance is going to be used in a sense like Josh Allen. You go back to when the Niners were losing late in seasons a couple years ago before they actually drafted Trey Lance. Shanahan came out and said he wanted a quarterback just like Josh Allen. So I think, even the Niners against, I believe it was the Cardinals when Trey Lance first came in, his play was outside run and he ran it in the end zone. So they use him in multiple ways. I'm not really sure which way they're going to go. But I just know that if he can't make those first or second reads, even if if he does get the keys, which I really hope he does, I don't feel like he's going to be doing more than 3 reads unless it's like Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, and then run. You know what I mean? So they're going to be trying to control the edge, and then he's just going to add that extra threat. So I feel like this year, Trey Lance, I'm kind of a homer pick for me, but I'm really high on him this year.
It might take more than a few games for him to get going, but I do think by the end of the year we'll think he's in the top 5, top 6. Fingers crossed.
Well, yeah, for fantasy, if he gets over 10 carries a game and he's throwing the ball 20, 23, 25 times and has a 63% completion rate in Shanahan's offense, he's going to get guys that have yak that can run the ball after the catch. So he's really, he's got that high fastball coming out. If those guys can hang on to it, 7, 15-yard passes across the middle, it's nothing but upside for him.
And it's kind of like what Hurts did last year. Hurts would have games where he did not pass the ball well, would get 80 yards rushing, so he would have a top 10 fantasy week. So it gives them much more room for error when they're able to run like that. So I do agree with that.
Interesting. My screen is not showing the last of the spots here. That's strange.
That's weird.
So, Mace, who did you end up getting at that second pick?
Yeah, so at the 14-1, I took Denzel Perryman, the linebacker from Vegas.
Okay. So it looks like there's something going weird with Sleeper here.
Yeah, I don't know what's glitching out.
Pull it up on my phone so I can keep track of what's up. Oh, hey. And it's back. Cool. Brandon, go ahead.
Sorry, real quick. I wanted to touch on Gary because he's a pressure machine, man, and a lot of people are sleeping on him. So I want to raise the awareness on him and let people know that if he's falling, you got to catch him because he might give you the trophy.
There it is. Nice. Yeah, Brandon, talk a little bit about your team here. I see you got the Hutch. You got Aiden Hutchinson, my guy out of Detroit. Like that pick, as well as Hamilton. Couple rookies right there. How are you feeling with the rookie defensive class?
I think especially those two, I feel pretty good. Especially Kyle Hamilton. I think at Baltimore, those safeties are very productive. I went Josh Allen. I actually was thinking about taking Hutch 2 rounds before, but I ended up taking Josh Allen and then was able to get him 2 rounds later. And I think Hutchinson will get because he's a good pass rusher, but he's also good against the run. So I think that's a positive for the especially defensive ends that can do both. They can get good amount of points for tackles that aren't necessarily just sacks.
Nice. There we go. Nice.
Yeah, Colte 14 has sniped me a couple of times. He sniped me with Knox in the 9th round, and then with Hendrickson again in the 11th. I like Knox a lot this year. I think him and Josh Allen are going to be connecting a lot.
Do you think he's touchdown dependent? I think he's a little touchdown dependent.
Well, yeah, anyone outside of the elite top 3 to 5, depending on who you want to fight over it with. I think outside of that, it's all about targets and touchdowns. A lot of people, I took Cole Kmet in the 8th round of Scott Fishbowl, and a lot of people were like, what are you doing? But he had he hit the floor last year, I feel like, with a lot of targets, and not a lot changed. So I'm really hoping that they can find him in the red zone a lot more.
Is he your tight end 1?
What's that?
Is he your tight end 1 for Fishbowl?
No, I took Kelsey in the 1st round.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I was drafted from the 6th spot.
There you go. Yeah, I saw someone not in my league, but in the other MFL league for Boston. He took Cole Kmet over Freiermuth, which I was a little bit surprised, but he got both of them. So I thought they could have been flipped, and it would have made more sense in my brain. But he got both of them right from the 11th spot. So that was interesting seeing, and I felt like it was early. It had to have been like 8th round, something like that, 7th or 8th. So, and I was talking to that guy, and he seemed to have the same thoughts as you on that, based off the targets. And I had drafted Fields, so I couldn't really argue against him because I need Fields to be able to throw the ball to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, even if people don't necessarily think Kmet is overly talented, I mean, there's not. Other than Darnell Mooney, he has to throw it to someone else, and they've got a lot of just guys there that are wide receivers. And I think Kmet only had 1. Did he have a touchdown last year? If not, it was 1.
I think it was 1 or 2.
Yeah. So I mean, you would have to imagine if he gets that same amount of targets, I mean, he's going to score more touchdowns.
N'Keal Harry doesn't change the floor for you.
It was crazy when people were talking about that. I was like, no.
Oh man! So as we go through our last pick, just real quick, talk about your team as a whole. I'll start with you, Mace, and we'll go to Brandon and Richard, and then me.
Yeah, so I wanted to start off, like I said earlier, with the offensive mindset and kind of get the high value stars, I guess. That's kind of why I went with Mixon and Diggs. I guess you could argue that Mixon is a little bit early, but he gets the volume, same volume as Taylor. He has a lot of long runs. And that offense really stretches the field. So I feel like he'll get a lot of, not like sympathy yards, but just because they're going to have to be playing so far back or whatever they're doing, focused on the passing game, that he's going to have high upside. I have high hopes for Cam Akers, just not against my Niners. Mike Evans is my security blanket. Elijah Mitchell, I feel like it's going to get a lot. He might be injured a couple games, but I don't know, he's my 3rd guy. So Tom Brady also probably pulled the trigger a little early on him. I always have buyer's remorse on quarterbacks in 1 quarterback leagues. Waited till the 8th to get an IDP, so I'm feeling pretty good about my team. Also got some guys I can flip flop in spots, so I'm feeling good.
Nice. There you go. Brandon, how about your team?
Yeah, I really like getting Eckler in the first round. I think he's going to continue to, and he had all those touchdowns last year. Probably have a little less this coming year, but still, he's still going to be high up there. Then with Devontae Adams, I think he's still going to have a huge, amount of targets in Las Vegas. Then Tyreek Hill. I'm not as worried about his move to Miami. I think they're going to find a way to get him the ball. It's not going to be all deep shots like with Mahomes. It's going to be more underneath and slants and stuff like that. But I still like that. Dobbins, like I said, even if he misses a week or two, I still feel good about his production. Like I talked about, I wanted to make sure I got a very good IDP player to start off with, Roquan Smith. And then actually in the 6th round, I was thinking about Nick Bosa in I got autoed because I was thinking too long. So that's how Kyler Murray came. And I was surprised Kyler Murray was higher than Lamar Jackson. But anyway, I'm still okay with that. Then I got Fred Warner the next round. Really like him. And then I finally addressed the tight end. If I wait on tight end and don't get those elite guys, I like going with either Dallas Goddard or Freiermuth. So I went with Goddard. Big Elijah Moore fan. Even with Garrett Wilson going there, I think both of them can still get high production. I talked about the Josh Allen, Kyle Hamilton, Aiden Hutchinson. That stretch got a couple rookies. Kenny Moore did really well last year. I think he's still going to get a lot of those tackles this year. Hunter Renfrow, even with Devontae, I still think he's going to be a high target guy, just not as much as last year. Don't love my third running back being James Cook, but I think there's some upside there. And then I finished it off with Tyrann Mathieu. He always seems to get a good amount of tackles wherever he goes.
Nice. How about you, Richard? How's your team?
I myself have a little buyer's remorse across of it. Like I said, very happy with my Jefferson pick that late in the first round. Javonte Williams, I think, will be really exciting this year, and I'm excited to see how much he can do in this new offense. Higgins, I've heard that he's probably one of the hopefully sleeper or we just expect a big growth out of him given his target amount last year. And pretty happy with Kittle in the 4th round. Usually I'm very slow on tight ends. I think my usual tight ends are pretty much like Albert O. So that's exciting for me. Gibson, I'm hoping that's a reasonable pick. We'll see. It'll be an interesting year for the Commanders with Wentz. I was happy with my Bosa pick. I think I might have jumped the gun on Buda Baker. I probably should have gone to a wide receiver because I ended up with Amon-Ra, who had a phenomenal year, but whether or not that production will be consistent throughout the entire year is the question. Brian Burns, very consistent defensive lineman the last couple of years. Let's see. Holcomb, I needed a linebacker. All the good ones are starting to go, but I really do like Holcomb. Trey Lance, we discussed at length. McKinney, yeah, I think in general, the format's interesting for me because I guess like I couldn't have a backup quarterback and stuff, so only 16 rounds feels a little odd. But I feel like I'd probably not in the last place, but probably somewhere around the middle would be my hope at the end of the year.
Waiver wire means a lot too. So, being able to get in there, you can turn a lot of things around. But I don't hate your league or your team. I think you did pretty well.
I'm excited for Nakobe Dean. I think that
Mhm.
he's a very interesting prospect.
Nice. Yeah, so I went the route of trying not to screw it up from the one spot, taking Taylor right there. When it came back around to me, I got really close to autoing and ended up going with AJ Brown, which isn't too bad. But now that I'm looking at the team, my wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 3 are on the same team, so not the greatest, but I guess if I can use that flex spot for a tight. No, it's gonna be both of them. So I don't have really any backups there. Um, but going with Pittman, I kind of liked the. There's a lot of hype with him this year of him taking the next step. So grabbing him in there to round out my wide receivers and grabbing Bryce Hall mainly just because he was the most exciting guy as I was looking uh, through the players that I wanted at that spot. Waller, again, we talked about that. He was kind of the tier break at tight ends, so I had to grab one there. Getting into Derwyn James as the DB1. The last, I don't know, 2 podcasts ago that I was on, I misspoke and said that Derwyn was injured last year when, in fact, he was the DB1. So I completely whiffed it then. So I didn't whiff it this time. I made sure and grab him. Daniil Hunter, I usually go him or Garrett. I've been a little bit lower on Hunter since his injuries have piled up and the situation there getting a little bit different for Minnesota, whereas Garrett is just kind of always on. So getting him later was kind of a consolation to not getting Garrett. My linebackers, I feel like are a little bit of a mess. I went with the rookie Lloyd, got Okereke, Edmonds, Cunningham, guys that I think that I can kind of piece together out of that. Jalen Hurts, grabbing him because he was the last like decent quarterback, and then my final pick being Mac Jones, simply because he's got some upside. He's a starting quarterback, and if Hurts ends up kind of disappointing, I've got Jones there as a backup. So that's my team there, and that was very fun, very challenging. I think that 30-second clock, like we ran through this, and we'll be way under an hour. So I think that was pretty good, and we had everyone show up. Only a few autos. It wasn't too bad. I think this is good data, a good show, a good mock. And I thank you guys for coming on and doing this. Mace, this was all your idea, so it's really on you. So why don't we just really quick go through each where people can find our content and kind of a refresher introduction. So we'll go with you, Mace.
Yeah, Mace, I write for the IDP guys, and you can find me on Twitter at CaliKing40under17. I do IDP stuff. I also scout college players on the side just for fun. So
awesome. Here we go, Brandon.
Yeah, so you can also a writer for IDP guys, mainly offensive, but I'm going to start hesitantly going into write some IDP type stuff. And I have a podcast, Decoding Devi, and I've done some IDP on that and a lot of Devi content on there. So yeah, check that out on our YouTube page.
Nice. Richard.
Hey, I'm Richard, Engineer Change, Twitter. You'll find more of my data stuff on the website soon. Probably already seeing some sneak in through some of Mace's articles. So excited to be a bigger part here and for a fun new season.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you got this far, you've watched the mock draft and everything, please make sure and subscribe to the channel and turn the notifications on. We have videos going out through that IDP Guys Network YouTube channel all the time. I swear there's probably 2 or 3 videos a day. Go to idpguys.org, sign up. We're here to help you win your league championship. Get into our Discord. And there's guys in there that we literally walk all the way through from week 1 until championship finals, and they win. We have a few guys that are very consistent winners with our help. So with that, thanks everyone for being part of this. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back with some more mock draft content later.